Want to know one of the best and fastest ways to grow a relationship with your prospects, get to know them really quickly, and show your expertise? Well, today I'm going to walk you through a funnel around quizzes, something popularized by Levesque and being used by experts all across various different industries. I'm going to walk you through one within the retirement space today that kind of shows you step by step how to create a quiz funnel, what questions to ask, how to set it up, and how to get somebody from answering your questions to becoming a prospect of yours and building that relationship over time. So stay tuned for this week's sales funnel of the week. Before we jump in, I'm Brian Czekanski. I'm a direct response copywriter, and I work with coaches in particularly those introverted coaches, to find and build a marketing plan that works for their personality so they can do it their own way. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you can get my content every single week. I break down sales funnels, give out Facebook ad advice, and generally walk you through the new business strategies that you can utilize to get more consistent clients every single week and every single month. So again, let's jump into this week's sales funnel of the week. So this was the funnel that I came across earlier this week. Funny to say that I'm actually working with a retirement coach that really helps people that are later in life kind of figure out what their retirement period looks like. Are they going to continue to work? Or what kind of activities are they going to be into? Like really hitting at that problem. You wake up, you're 65, you're 70, 75, and you're kind of sitting there at breakfast going, what am I going to do with my day? And, kind of hitting at that problem. And this is a sales funnel as kind of a key competitor for my client that has really built out an online program. So really focusing on those baby boomers, figuring out like, what does that retirement life look like for them? And funny enough, I'm finishing up kind of a quiz funnel that follows Levesque's strategies and templates over the next few weeks in a completely separate industry. But this was a really great one to kind of go through, and I'll walk you through it step by step and kind of utilizing that same strategy. And you'll see how it kind of develops in terms of the Facebook ad, but also those quiz questions and how you finally get to your specific outcome, and how, George in this case tries to build a relationship with you, offers that solution in that. So it's really, like a great way, as you'll see, a great way to kind of get to know your audience a little bit better, to be able to kind of segment them based on their unique characteristics, give them kind of that outcome for the question that you've posed, then start building a relationship, start to put your offer out there there's various different, options out there. But in this case, what he's doing is kind of a webinar that he's doing every single week to get in front of his audience that goes through this quiz and turn them from prospects into clients, and getting his live workshop out there. So let's just kind of start from the very beginning. One of the things that every quiz really needs is some kind of traffic. So if you're not getting enough eyeballs into your quiz, it's not really going to work. So again, let's just start with his Facebook ads. He has a couple different ones that are going through at this time, but just wanted to highlight this one. So the first thing is kind of like, what is his quiz question? So for him, it's, what is your number one retirement mistake? And this is kind of like one of the different strategies that Ryan also suggests, is kind of like hitting at that mistake. Like what is kind of that unintended thing that you're going through right now that you might not even realize that might be holding you back? And this is kind of brings up, for a lot of people, maybe they're doing something unintended or kind of holding themselves back in some way. And your quiz kind of brings that to life and gives them some more information. And then if obviously you can connect that to your offer as you go through. So, this is just one aspect, one quiz question that you could pose. There's, a bunch of different ones that you can go out there, but definitely one of the more effective ones where you're really hitting at maybe an unintended, mistake that your prospects have, or just bringing to light, kind of educating them a little bit into what their scenario is and what they might be doing wrong in that case. So posed in terms of the retirement. So he really is posing, like, some days retirement feels so close, other times it feels so farther away. So really hitting at those baby boomers that might be still working at this time. They have that on the horizon, and they're not really sure what it looks like. I can tell you from my own family members' perspective, as they get into retirement age, retirement kind of seems like something that's looming over them, just because they're not really sure what it looks like. They're not, how are they going to spend their days? Are they just going to travel all the time? Like, what does that look like? Especially after working maybe in a corporate job for a long period of time, it's going to be a difficult transition to go from like a 9 to 5, work experience where you have a lot of responsibility, a lot of obligation, and then suddenly kind of like the faucet turns off and you have a completely different schedule, a completely different outlook. So like, especially with George here, he's giving him some answers, helping him kind of ease that transition as you go along. And his Facebook ad really speaks to that. Speaks to kind of that lack of preparation, that lack of insight, and he's going to kind of fill into the gaps there. And this is where he kind of gets into, maybe some retirement mistakes. Like one of them might be just not being able to kind of visualize or plan out what it looks like, especially as you get into this next stage of life. And he kind of used the analogy of people often sleepwalk into retirement without questioning, or by the time they realize it's already too late. So he's really kind of filling the gap. And this is really the great way that you can do it in terms of quizzes, is kind of take somebody through a list of questions, get a lot of information about them, and then let them know what are those key things that, you are potentially, again, you're not prepared, like here's and kind of tie your solution to those mistakes that they're making. So again, it kind of goes through a quiz, talks through those mistakes, and hopefully at the other side, you're in the right frame of mind to sit in front of his webinar and hear his offer and all the benefits that kind of line up with some of the mistakes that you're taking right now. So the next part, I'm going to walk you through some of the questions. You get an idea of, like what kind of information are you getting from your audience? And this is obviously can be customized, to your audience and your specific industry and your offer. But it's interesting, like the quiz questions are always going to be different based upon who's putting out that quiz funnel. So let's take a look at that, and then I'll show you what the ultimate outcome looks like. So I'll kind of go through and just make up some fake answers, but like it ultimately comes to one specific outcome, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. Okay, so before we jump into the quiz, I guess there's several different ways to kind of set up your quiz funnel, and the way that, again, he's kind of following Ryan Levesque's particular template and structure. So, he's coming to some kind of landing page to kind of frame them in the right sense, and kind of introduce himself a little bit before jumping into the questions. I know with my existing client right now, what we're considering doing is just kind of bypassing this landing page and just get straight into the questions, kind of get that momentum going really quickly. We've seen it as well with other people that have taken quiz funnels, where people kind of get stuck on this page. They don't actually go through the questions. So we're going to test that out in terms of maybe using a landing page here, or just jumping into the questions right away from that Facebook ad as a way of testing that. So just to give you an idea, but again, this is kind of what Ryan Levesque suggests in terms of the structure. So you got here kind of repeating, you come to a landing page. It's very similar in terms of the colors, in terms of posing that quiz question again. And that's where you can kind of start the quiz, 60-second quiz, making it really super quick. He's got an expiration up here to create some urgency. So that person doesn't just sit on their hands for a long period of time. And then if you scroll down and you're kind of questioning, like, should I take this quiz? He's got some social proof in terms of he's somebody that's based in the UK. So he's got some local media spots up here. And then he kind of introduces himself as a mindset mentor, kind of getting into those retirement mistakes, and again, pushing you to take the quiz a little bit. And then he kind of gives you a preview of what it looks like at the end. So like, again, at the end of this quiz, you're going to get your own results report. This is everything that you're going to get. It's going to explain your unique results. And then we're going to go through and do that. So let's actually just start the quiz. I probably should have done this YouTube live and gotten some, people to comment back and give me some suggestions on these questions, but I'll just go through and make them up as I go along. So for this one, I'll just pretend like I'm not retired, and I'm not retired. So that's kind of a true one. Which of the following age ranges applies to you? I know this, I know for this guy, like his target demographic is kind of in that, 50, 60s range. So I'll just say I'm in my 50s. When it comes to your ideal retirement, which of the following attracts you the most? So for, like maybe just from my vantage point, I want to make sure that I'm not bored. I want to make sure I have enough activities, but you can see how he's kind of, in terms of those outcomes, he had things like the health, he had other things like wealth as well. So it might be health, wealth, activities as kind of those outcomes that he's looking for. So you get a sense for like, okay, what are those mistakes that he might come back with? It might be something like you might be thinking about those 3 buckets as we go through in terms of that. So you see the first couple questions were just some kind of qualifying ones, like what age were you? Like really easy questions, get people rolling in really quickly. And then as you get along in the quiz, it gets a little bit more specific, tie them into the specific outcomes, health, wealth, and activities potentially as the outcome. And then kind of gets to more, specific ones. Like, again, like this is more of a scenario where I meet an elderly person at a party. How do you feel when talking to her? So let me just do this one. If I had to pick one of the following, what's your biggest challenge in retirement? So again, trying to hit at some of those outcomes as well. So you see one is all about health and well-being. The other one's all about kind of more wealth related, and the other one's more activities related. So I'm going to just follow the previous response that I had, about I have nothing to focus on anymore. So more activity based, and then a plan you're keen turns out to be risky and your loved ones warn you against it. Which action would you take? So here's kind of getting at like, okay, as you kind of plan this out, somebody might be questioning you, like, how do you think about that? I'm just going to say this final one. And then again, you can see how they kind of follow those outcomes. Again, like I'm drained in terms of health, burdened in terms of debts and finances, and then bored in terms of activities. So again, I'll just follow the previous responses in terms of bored. And then again, hitting out those quotations. So again, I would guess that there's in those same buckets. Retirement is a time that to do what you want, when you want, where you want. So again, like more activities based. People just don't have enough money saved. So again, more financial. You are never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dream. So let me just go with this last one. Then which of the following beliefs would be your own? If you could dream it, you could do it. Money doesn't grow on trees, and health as well. So again, like first one, activity based, second one, financial, third one, health. So again, you can kind of see the outcomes as you go through these questions, but as somebody goes through in terms of their priority list, what's important to them, they should, answer these questions pretty consistently in terms of their problem. And then this comes out with the quiz results. So again, like come out with our quiz results. My specific one is MM. So again, like you don't know what MM means. So he's putting in some curiosity there. And, this is where he's going to ask you for your email address and things like that as we go along. Okay, so now we've got to the outcome page. This is going to give you the actual results. So like MM, we showed you in the last screen, there's a lot of curiosity, like what does that mean? You come to this screen and he kind of spells it out in terms of meaningless monotony. So that's kind of what your outcome was out of all the questions. You can see tied here, again, using urgency at the top to make sure that you view the page right away, you pay attention, and you kind of go down the page. And then here is kind of like an outcome video. So this is where he's going to kind of explain, like, what are your results? Like, what does it mean? Like, what are some of those mistakes? And actually walk you through, like, okay, what does meaningless monotony mean? And why am I going through that? Like, why do others go through that? And kind of set up, the solution to that. And again, what he's not going to do is send you the report right away. He might say, like, I'm going to get it, 15 minutes from now, 20 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, because he doesn't want you going back to your email and checking it there. He wants to be able to start to build a relationship with you, that know, like, and trust factor. That's why video is so important. You get to know him a little bit. You get to hear his voice. You get to see his expertise in terms of describing the results, the mistakes that others have made all the time, and then start to build up what his potential solution is, not only to hit at this specific mistake, but to also mention, what I believe is probably 2 other mistakes that others are making in terms of health and financial as well. So, he's setting up his potential solution, which probably will hit out all 3 of those: health, financial, and activity as you go through. but it's just a great way to kind of introduce, like a great way to kind of get to know George a little bit better as he goes through this 15 or 20 minute video. It's a great way to kind of show and demonstrate his expertise, but also be very specific to your specific situation. He's talking about the things that are relevant for you as you head into retirement, your number one priority. So it's a great way of kind of using the responses that you gave and talking specifically to your situation and letting him let you know that he has a potential solution that hits at that specific problem, but also maybe other relevant priorities for you in terms of health and financial as well, which is what many people are thinking about as they go into the retirement. And then he sets up that next step, which for him is registering for a free live webinar. So again, I signed up for this. I can show you the emails for that in a second. Basically a series of emails that not only gets you to that live webinar, but starts to deliver a little bit more value and education for you about, who is George, what is his potential solution, and what he wants you to do is to go through that show up for that webinar live, ask questions, engage. It might be 45 minutes long, and he kind of walks you through his story a little bit more, walks you through his potential solution, wants you to sign up right away. He's going to handle objections up front. So just a great way of doing that. And the webinar is one way that you can do it within this quiz funnel strategy. There's obviously other ways that you can do it as well. The webinar isn't the only solution that you have to put out there. You could put out a series of recorded videos if you wanted to, but really using video as a way to kind of build up that relationship so they can get to know you, your personality, and for you to kind of demonstrate your expertise along the way. So again, it's very much customized to what your preference is. Like for me, like getting on a 45-minute webinar and talking for 45 minutes with maybe just a couple engaged, some comments, within the Q&A box is not my idea of something that I'd want to do from a new business perspective, but there's other ways that you can do it to kind of fit your personality if that's not a great fit. And, I'd probably do it a little bit differently as well in terms of the setup, but this is kind of just one way of doing that. So finally, I just want to show you what some of the emails might look like. Again, that's another way to make sure that you not only get that report, and I'll show you what the report looks like from his perspective, but also seeing those next steps in terms of continuing to build that relationship, because we know that not everybody is going to sign up for that webinar. They're not going to show up even if they do. So we want to make sure that each step of the way that we're giving people value, we're giving them information and kind of setting them up to buy his potential solution that hits on those key pain points as they go along. So let's hop in and take a look at what the email. Okay, so let's take a look at the final part of this quiz funnel, which is all about the email sequence. A great way to continue the conversation for those that went through your funnel, maybe didn't take that last step that you wanted to. Great place to add some additional value, to educate them a little bit, to introduce yourself as well. Don't just assume that they went through your funnel and they saw all parts of your pages, that they watched your videos. Almost assume that they didn't see that and kind of fill in the gaps for them within your email sequence. Do that on a day-to-day basis, kind of continue that momentum, that conversation. Think of it, whenever they opted into your quiz funnel, think of that as kind of their height of motivation for potentially buying your solution. So in those days afterwards, we want to make sure that we're putting out an email every single day to continue that conversation, to get in front of them, to encourage them to take that next step. In this case, a live webinar that they want to join. It's important, especially when they join a live webinar, to keep them reminded, encourage them about all the benefits of joining that live webinar. Because again, as the times change, depending on what time the webinar is and things like that, it might be difficult. They might have to move around their schedule. So you kind of have to do you have to make that sales pitch, almost every day leading up to that webinar to make sure that they actually show up, listen to your 45-minute or hour-long webinar, go through it, get to know your solution, and ultimately buy at the very end. So important to just stay in front. And this is really what George has done as well. You can see, when I signed up for this on April 4th, really is kind of sending an email, with the absence of the 6, but almost every day, multiple times a day in some cases, to stay in front of me and to get in front of that. So first one is just sending that free report. Again, he had the video outcome where he kind of explained that outcome, but this is the actual tangible PDF report, which kind of goes through your quiz funnel, quiz results and your outcome that you have. So let's take a look at that. It looks like kind of just a really PDF. For this one, it's 7 pages. Again, kind of just shows you, the first page is kind of very generic and kind of agnostic to whatever outcome you have. So it just talks about the unique results. It's not specific to that. Kind of has his name, and then kind of gets more specific into what's your unique one, and kind of goes through, does some scene setting as well. He gives him a little bit of framework, sets up his story. So he retired after the age of 52. In his case, it was a health problem. And then he talks about his transformation, about like, okay, he went through a honeymoon period for a year, all that freedom, but he was actually kind of bored. So in talking about some of the outcomes that he has, he's actually probably gone through some of these in terms of financial, health, and activity as well. And then, now he's in his mid 60s. So again, he's kind of speaking directly to that avatar because he is the avatar. And now he's become a mindset mentor. So he's kind of like transitioned his career and transitioned his activity to being more purposeful, fitting in with his passion. So again, he's, kind of describing the transformation that he went through to kind of give a little bit more credibility that he can do the same for you as you go along, whether it's health, wealth, or activity as you go through it. So again, like my specific outcome was meaningless monotony. Again, his story can kind of speak to that. And then he kind of describes like, what does that mean? None of the, like he actually goes up in front and says like, none of these are actually retirement mistakes. It's just simply that it's really your mind. It kind of goes to that mindset, him being a mindset coach, kind of going to that and saying like, actually, this isn't a mistake. You just have to kind of prepare your mind and have a plan for what you're trying to do. And again, that kind of sets up his solution really well. And he kind of breaks that down in terms of that mistake and pitfall from a mindset perspective, thinking about it physically, mentally, emotionally. Like, what do like if you don't have enough activity within retirement, like how is that going to affect you in terms of lack of self-esteem, self-worth, if you're going through day by day and you just don't have anything to do, or you don't have a plan for what you're going to do. And then kind of goes through in terms of setting up his solution. And, here's kind of the key transition point. Here's what you can do about it. And this is what he kind of sets up his plan. And his solution is kind of that 4-step DARE method. So kind of goes through, here's discover, here's assimilate, here's rewire, and then expand as you go through. So really just important to kind of have that, he has that solution for, where you are right now and where you want to be is kind of going through this DARE method and going through the checklist. And this kind of sets up his solution really well. So like if you think about kind of like what is your 3 or 4 step success path, like this is something that I always work with clients with all the time. Like what is your marketing process to get from somebody where they are right now to where they want to be? It's that process. It's kind of that transparency. Like you can put out a great promise at the top of your headline or your sales page, but people want to know exactly how they're going to get there. Is it just something, is it just a bold promise that you're putting out there and it's kind of just a hope or a dream? This 3 or 4 step process that you come through and kind of that success path that you get them through is really important to kind of show them like step by step, like what is the transparency? Like what is that program actually going to help me do? And to kind of bring through some of that belief, like especially if somebody's sitting right here and you're trying to promise them something up here, it's tough for them to really visualize that and believe that. But if you can take them through in terms of like kind of those micro steps, they can kind of see how it progresses along the way, and they can see how they could potentially, come through. And especially if you have testimonials that kind of speak the same way in terms of people that had that same problem that they did, and kind of walk them through their experiences and then have them talk about how their life has transformed. That's really powerful stuff from a marketing perspective as well. And that kind of sets up kind of his potential solution. So again, we talked about those other outcomes that might be for the quiz. You see here, health hazards is one and fantasy funds is the other. So those are the other 2 outcomes that he does address in his program, which might be top of mind for his audience as well, and probably are. Maybe they have that, one of those figured out. Maybe they don't, but maybe it's something top of mind for them. So his solution kind of encapsulates all those outcomes that you might have from a quiz perspective, even though this results is kind of very specific to what their quiz results were. And that kind of sets up, again, like his live webinar where he's going to sell you his Booming Life for Boomers solution and kind of walk you through step by step, what it is, what the price is, all that kind of stuff to set that up. So again, like he wants to make sure and kind of put you in the right frame of mind by joining a webinar to do that. He's actually not giving you a link to a sales page or anything like that. That's another option that you could have. Instead of sending somebody to a webinar, you could have a long form sales page. You could have a video sales letter. So it's not dependent on them showing up. But for his business, he's decided and has probably tested out like a live webinar is a great way to get people onto, get to know him a little bit better, ask any questions that they have. He can go forward and answer any of those objections and address those up front. Really important as you go along. So I want to just go back to his emails a little bit. And one of the key things that I thought was really impressive is, in the sequence that he gives you, one of the things that he has, again, he's asking you, along the way, he's always telling you to go to that next step, which for him is a live webinar. Are you joining me later? So if you register, you want to make sure that you're sending email reminders to those participants to actually show up on the day. But one of the other things he did as well is send an affiliate offer. So here, he's putting through one of those things. He's going to send you to his blog, and in those blogs, he has guest blogs that he puts out there, kind of like people that meet that put out offerings that meet his specific audience. They have a relevant offer that he can kind of take advantage and kind of monetize his email list as much as possible. So in this instance, he's sending you to something called the Joy Club, which again is very much pertinent to my quiz results around activity. The Joy Club is going to give you a lot of suggestions in terms of what you can do, motivated to live purposely and passionately in their later life. So it's going to give you all these suggestions around activities and all these other things that is very much lines up with the things that are top of mind for you. So it's just a great way to, again, he's going to capture some income from that. Even if you don't sign up for his solution along the way. So just kind of a brilliant way to, in those first couple of emails, to kind of capture, regardless of what actions that person takes, he's going to get some kind of income stream. Maybe maybe in a 6 months time or something like that, they come back to his solution and sign up for that in the meantime. But right now they sign up for Joy Club, and he gets a cut of that membership fee as they go along. So. In that quiz funnel, again, leave a comment below. Let me know what was kind of the most interesting part of that quiz funnel. Like, especially as you set up these quiz funnels, it can look very different. So I can tell you the quiz funnel that I'm setting up for my client in a completely different industry has some similarities in terms of the report and the structure and things like that. But we have completely different outcomes. We have completely different questions and a completely different solution, obviously, as we're going that through. So, each quiz funnel, especially following Ryan Levesque's structure, is not going to look completely the same because you really want to customize it to your audience. What are those pain points that they're going through right now, and how does your solution kind of line up with that? So again, let me know in the comments below what was kind of the most interesting part of this quiz funnel as we went through it, and how could you potentially structure it for your business? Like, what were some of the questions that you might ask your audience, and how does that line up with your potential solution? And again, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I'm always breaking down funnels every single week. And the other thing that I'm doing is really giving you specific new business strategies that kind of fit your personality, whether it's sales funnels, Facebook ads. I have over 20 different strategies I'm going to go through in the next few weeks that will give you all different ideas that really fit your personality to go out there, get consistent clients every single week. So until next time, feel free to check out my website, mindsetcopy.com, for even more information, even more education and advice, and look forward to seeing you next time.